What's going on, Maschine Masters? My name is MGTheFuture. Today on What Would Producer Do, I'll be covering XXXTENTACION's track called Jocelyn Flores. This is part of one of his latest projects that released about 2 or 3 weeks ago. This song has been getting the biggest response. It's a lo-fi, chill, down-tempo type track that's actually a standalone instrumental by itself with an artist or producer by the name of Potsu. And then the words and the sample itself, he sampled from another track by an artist named Shiloh Dynasty. It's a track on YouTube with just a guitar solo. Sounds like an intro to kind of like an unplugged event. It was only about 45 seconds long. So this track is a live performance sampled into a chill beat that was jumped on by XXX to make this joint that he's kind of just harmonizing and flowing over. So it's pretty dope. So because of that vibe, I'll be bringing out the SP404 again, showing you guys a couple of techniques in case you get one or in case you have one and you would like to try out something like this, because that track is pretty simple and straightforward. On the SP404, I already have some drums that might fit the bill for this track. So the only thing I need to do is get the sample in here. So a cool thing I want to show you guys is that when you hit record on SP404, normally there's a gap of space in the beginning because it's waiting for you to play something or do something. You can kind of prevent that by using pad 4, which is auto trigger level. So you do function number 4. It'll tell you to set the level. I'm assuming this is threshold. I'm going to set it to 1 and hit record, and that'll lock that preset in. So whenever I'm ready to record, it will wait for audio basically. I'll be getting the audio from an Android phone, directly from YouTube of the original track, I Knew You So Well by Shiloh Dynasty. So I'm gonna do a record, put it on pad 1, record, and now it's gonna say ready. So basically as soon as I hit the play button, it's gonna pick this up. I know you so well, so well. So that's a decent portion of the sample. I noticed right away in the YouTube video there's a small gap. So this sample is going to have a small gap as well. So I'm going to have to adjust the start and the end time. But what's cool about that is I have to do some processing first, so I won't trim the sample for a loop until I do the processing. So on the main song, the producer Potsu uses the bass line like old school hip hop. So we're going to use the isolator to turn up the bass and turn down the highs so that we can vary the voice a little bit. I know you so well, so well. So that's pretty decent. What we're going to want to do now is resample that to a new pad in order to retain that effect in case I want to add a different effect to something else. So in order to do that, we'll do resample, record, pad 2. Resampling already waits for you to hit another pad, so we're good to go on that. Alright, so we got the sample with the effect on it. So before and after. Now what I want to do is try to get that particular pad to loop as perfectly as possible. So I'm going to want to take off some of the beginning and a little bit of the end. We can use start and end time and adjust control 2 and 3 to fix that. But I'm going to try to use mark to catch the downbeat. So I'm doing a 3 count in my head, so I think it's like 1, 2, 3. I have to hit mark. Mark allows you to set warp markers basically for the start and end of the sample. So I'm gonna try to catch the start closer, and then I'm gonna try to catch the end, so my fine adjustments are much smoother to do. So it's better. It's way closer than it was. I think the start is fine. It's the ending when it loops around. So I want to adjust the end time on this. I'm going to take gate off and just keep loop on. So I hit the pad once and let it play. And when I adjust the end, it's going to keep stuttering because it's taking, it's manually adjusting the end of the waveform. But in order for this to do that, it has to audition it in real time. Don't know why they wanted to do it that way, but be that as it may, I'll probably edit this part of the video until I get that loop going. But pretty much this is how you start it. Play it, adjust knob 3. -30 is the highest steps it can go. So you push it again to commit, press it again to do another adjustment. So right there we have a decent loop. As decent as it's going to be on this machine. So I'm going to take that mark away and commit that. I'm going to do delete, mark, delete, it'll say truncate, delete again. And now this pad is just that sample. So I'm going to play that one more time for you guys, just so you can see what I'm talking about. Really decent. So what you can do is put this into pattern mode. But here's the problem with doing that with this machine. This machine does not have an official time stretch, and this sample is live. So it's not hitting the downbeats at all. So I wouldn't even play myself. If you were to put it on the sequencer, what you would do is chop that into 4 parts so you can manually trigger the downbeats on time. But for this video, I'm not going to do that. For this video, I'm going to use resample mode and play the drums live with the sample to show you guys what that's all about. But first things first, I need to adjust the drum sounds. First thing I noticed about the original track, it has a filtered kick. So any of these will do. Isolator is a good filter, so let's use that. That's on point. I want to turn it down a little bit. Now from here, you resample it. So since my other sample is on bank B, I'm going to put the drums on bank B as well. So first things first, let me resample it first. Now my filter kick is here. It's a little bit louder, but I can still turn that down further if I need to. I'm going to function, copy it, put it on bank B. So I'm good on that. I'm going to turn gate on for this kick because there's extra time if you don't hit record and time to stop the recording on resample. So gate just plays it as long as you touch it. So now for the snares, there's one with reverb and one without. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the snare with reverb first. I'm going to use this one. It's going to be MFX number 1. This knob balances mix. This knob here adjusts the dampening. And this knob here is the decay. I want it a little bit dark since it's lo-fi. And I'm going to resample that. I'm going to copy that. Onto bank 2. The other snare is regular. I really don't need to do much to that, but I'm gonna make it darker a little bit with isolator. I'm gonna resample that as well. And I'm gonna copy and paste that onto bank B. Cool, so we're halfway there. Now I'm gonna do the hi-hats. This one we use pitch, which is MFX 21. Balance is mixed, so we want it all the way up. Feedback, we don't need any. Now we just mess with the pitch. All right, so I think I got a hi-hat that I like. Has a really weird triggering mechanism. So I'm gonna go ahead and resample that. And I'm gonna copy that. Cool. So now I got all my drum elements, and what I want to do this time is resample instead of using a sequencer. Meaning I'm gonna have to trigger multiple samples at once while performing a live recording. The trick behind doing this efficiently is keeping in mind you're gonna have to do start and end points to loop it perfectly, and keeping in mind the rhythm and the feel of the track. And it gets real tricky to do because this is not a perfectly looped sample in terms of warp or time markers where the downbeats are, so you had to use your own groove. And in fact, that's why so many lo-fi beats sound like that, is because they're using resample mode. So I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can knock this out with just the snare first, meaning I'm gonna have to resample a couple of passes, one with the snare, one with the sample snare and the kick, so on and so forth. So I'm gonna show you what that workflow looks like. So I know where that is. So we do resample. We're gonna use pad 3. It's waiting for me. So because this has a low polyphony, and I learned this the hard way using resample mode, try to only do 1 or 2 elements at a time, because I think it'll only handle like 2 or 3 stereo elements and like 4 or 5 mono. But anyway, I'm just gonna hold it down the pad for the sample and trigger the snare. And I intentionally let that loop go around so I can use that as the my cue where to do my end time, because if I'd hit record too soon or too early, I'd never get a perfect loop. So I always let it play a little bit extra so I can trim it later. All right, so now it's time for the kick. I'm gonna overwrite it on 4, and I want the tricky part is hitting them both at the same time. So let's see. Cool, so pad 4 is now the final arrangement. So now I have to adjust the start and end time and see if we can get that looping. All right, so once you edit the start and end points as close as possible, get a decent loop going, you can go ahead and delete the mark on it. So that'll trigger truncate, of course. And as far as the performances go, when you use resample mode, if you kept track of each time you overdubbed a pad for resample, you pretty much have your pattern or arrangement. For instance, make sure your pads are in gate and loop mode, so when you hold it and let go, you can trigger something else, so you go between. so on and so forth. And a lot of times you can even take gate off and just let it rock and get into the effects. And that's pretty much it, man. That's using the SP resample mode. It takes quite a few steps to get to that point, but it's a lot of fun. The groove is a lot cooler too, because we're not using points per grid. We're not quantizing. We're doing straight off the live feel of your own performance, which is why a lot of people gravitate to this setup and workflow. And of course, if I had some more time outside of the video, I try to get a little bit more tighter, or go to the concept I spoke about earlier, triggering the sample on downbeats, so it's a little bit more tighter, like a poor man's time stretch. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, leave a comment below. If you're not a subscriber, definitely subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about this, definitely leave them in the comments and I'll try to answer the best I can. You can also reach me on social media on Instagram at MGTheFuture. Be sure to follow at Maschine Masters as well. Hope you guys have a good beat making weekend ahead of you. Until next time.